heard of a killer? I drop bombs like Hiroshima.
Somebody said, look at LeakYou video. What the fuck is LeakYou? Is it like a site? What's LeakYou? LeakYou. Is it a YouTube channel? Oh, shit. Oh, all right, bet. Here we go.
Please hit the like. Thank you.
One, two, three, four.
Hey, good morning, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Depending on where you are, of course. I hope you all are having a good Friday. It's the weekend, baby. It is the weekend. And as we move into this, wonderful Friday, I wish it was a 3-day weekend, but it's not. But as we move into Friday, this will be the first weekend that Diddy, Sean Combs, has spent behind bars at MDC, the notorious lockup that everybody's talking about. Some are calling it the most dangerous place for Diddy. Some say that his life is in danger. Some say he's on suicide watch. Some say he's in his element. But what I do know is that there is a lot of concern in Hollywood right about now. A lot. We've got record executives suddenly giving up their posts. We've got celebrities going mum. We even have some celebrities that are trying to defend this man's sexual escapades, which, by the way, I find very odd. The Boosie, dude, you got to know when to stop, right? Umar Johnson, dude, what you mean you don't see any evidence? What you mean? I don't think you're looking very, very hard at the documents. Your boy, old Diddy, Sean Combs, is the one that has provided the most evidence. When his homes were raided, authorities seized over 90 devices, including laptops, tablets, phones, cloud storage accounts, and including, that also includes over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and sex lubricant. And although possessing baby oil and sex lubricant is not a crime, but listen, we've had a little bit of an eye-opener into what the federales are going to be throwing Diddy's way, okay? This is a 3-count indictment including racketeering, including, prostitution over state lines. And listen, the racketeering aspect of this case is what carries the life sentence. That's what carries the life sentence. Understand that. That particular charge of racketeering is absolutely what Diddy could get the most time for. We're talking about arson, drugs, kidnapping, okay? Both times, Diddy's lawyer fought for bail, and including after the first day, there was an appeal to the bail bond, and the appeal also failed. The judges feel that it is best that he be remanded until trial. Now, yesterday, we were going over the lawsuit filed by Rodney Jones against Sean Puffy Combs. Again, shout out to my anonymous source who was able to get me these very important documents. And as we read through these documents, we talked about a shooting that happened at Chalice Recording Studios. We talked about Cuba Gooding Jr. being accused of touching Rodney Jones inappropriately on a yacht. Did you all also see the latest clip of Shine, the rapper Shine, in Belize? He lives in Belize currently. He's a politician. He's become a politician in Belize. And he even did a presser, and someone asked him if he ever attended any freak-offs. But he absolutely said that Sean Combs destroyed his life. Now, what's up with it, FSK Unseen Soldier? Now, here's the thing. Last year, Sean Combs and Shine met up. Now, Shine is saying that Sean Combs has a lot of money, and his money can go a long way in Belize. And so he basically, claims that he put his own needs or wants below those of his country. I thought the photo of him of Shine and Sean Combs, especially after Shine spent 10 years in prison for a shooting that Sean Puffy Combs did. He shot a woman in the face. Y'all remember the incident with Jennifer Lopez, the club? He shot a woman in the face. Sean Diddy, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, a.k.a. whatever you want to call him, Brother Love, has been getting away with crimes for years, you all. We've all heard the stories. And then Cassie dropped her lawsuit in November of last year. And Sean Combs, a.k.a. Diddy, settled within 24 hours. Absolutely unheard of. It's very clear she knows where the bodies are buried. And not only did she get her $30 million, she also has been able to witness Sean Combs be arrested. So we all suspect that Cassie is victim one in the indictment. We expect that Cassie will also be testifying when trial comes about. And you can tell that lawyers are gearing up for this headbanger because they're already trying to defile Cassie in court papers. They're already, trying to call her a cheater. But it's okay if Mr. Combs has sex with umpteen number of men and women, right? And it's okay if he beats her on video. And it's okay if he bribes hotel staff. Cassie's supposedly the bad one. Well, let me tell you something. Cassie has been out and about in New York City, smiling big. And do you blame her? That woman hasn't even been seen in months. And she's been called everything but a child of God. So many celebrities and rappers that should have just kept their mouths shut have leveraged their voices to defend Diddy. And then that video of Diddy beating Cassie dropped in March. And all of a sudden, those same people had to eat their words. And then this multiple count indictment comes down, and even more people, they're just mum. They don't have anything to say. We talk about lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit has been filed. And I think one of the most devastating civil lawsuits that has been filed against Sean Combs has been the Rodney Jones civil lawsuit. Of course, Cassie's suit, but her suit is no longer stands. She settled. She settled for $30 million. Absolutely unheard of. But Sean Combs wants to fight Rodney Jones's lawsuit. When I tell you that Rodney Jones says he has hundreds of hours of footage of Sean Combs incriminating himself. Why? Because Sean Combs demanded that everything be recorded. His own narcissism has led to his demise. Not only is it the hundreds of hours of footage and audio, video that Rodney Jones managed to obtain, it's also all of the things that the feds obtained when they raided not only his home in Los Angeles, but in Miami as well. What's up with it, Chris Harris? Shout out to you. Now, we are going to continue on here and review this civil lawsuit that has been absolutely, I feel like it's devastating. And listen, Cuba Gooding Jr., do you like men too? Cuba Gooding Jr. has had a storied history of being arrested for sexual assault. And Rodney Jones directly accuses Cuba Gooding Jr. of sexually assaulting him. Let's keep going. I mean, the way that Cuba Gooding Jr. is looking at him all in his face. And he's there showing him something on the computer, and Cuba Gooding Jr. he's got Rodney looking uncomfortable, okay? Like he wants to lick his cheek, okay? Or something. I don't know. But let me tell you this. Rodney Jones did not get paid for his work, all right, that he did for Sean Combs. He did not get paid for his work. He had times where he woke up in the bed with sex workers, in the bed with Sean Combs, and didn't even know how he got there. And he was naked, okay? He feels he was violated. But let's keep going here. So we're at the section here where Mr. Combs uses his power and influence to threaten and intimidate Mr. Jones. According to Mr. Jones, Mr. Combs is very forceful and demanding. Mr. Combs does not take no for an answer and would often threaten to inflict bodily harm on Mr. Jones if Mr. Jones did not comply with his demands. And as detailed above, and we read this in the previous video, if you go into the description, you can see part 1, as I did put the link in there for you all. But Mr. Combs threatened to eat Mr. Jones's face. And on another occasion, while standing in Mr. Combs's bedroom, Mr. Jones was forced to watch as Mr. Combs displayed his guns and bragged about getting away with shooting people. Mr. Combs shared that he was responsible for the shooting in the nightclub in New York City with rapper Shine. And we know that rapper Shine did a 10-year bid. And in the civil lawsuit, we have these wonderful screen grabs screenshots, screen caps that lawyers put together. And in this screen cap, we see Gene Deal in an article from Complex. We see the infamous Gene Deal. Gene Deal's been talking for years. I remember videos Gene Deal used to do before there was even a live feature and function on YouTube. Now he has the ability to go live, and he does go live. All right. People go over there to hear what he has to say, including myself. Now, there was a Complex article about Diddy's former bodyguard accuses the rapper of snitching on Shine over the 1999 shooting. And as the story goes, bad boy artist Shine was jailed for attempted murder, assault, and reckless endangerment charges after the shooting incident at a New York club. And what we discovered, even what Shine spoke to in a presser yesterday, is that Sean Puffy Combs paid others to testify against Shine in a court of law to ensure that he would not go down for the shooting of that woman in the face. Now, he shared that artist and Mr. Combs' girlfriend at the time, Jennifer Lopez, aka J-Lo, carried the gun into the club for him and passed him the gun after he got into an altercation with another individual. J-Lo, where you at? J-Lo. J-Lo. There was a footage, a video, a picture of J-Lo in bed with Sean Diddy Combs and Aaliyah before Aaliyah passed away. J-Lo, where you at, girl? Where you at? Jennifer Lopez had been arrested after that shooting, had been charged with criminal possession of a weapon after a gun was allegedly found in their car. I'm sure this is something that Miss J-Lo from the block wants to absolutely forget. You know, she's worried more so about her divorce from Ben Affleck these days. But if you've ever seen a woman that just can't keep a man for whatever weird, strange reasons, sometimes these women can be beautiful, have the best bodies, but for some reason they just can't keep a man. That's Jennifer Lopez. Now, the shooting in Chalice Recording Studios confirmed Mr. Combs' statements. These statements reinforced Mr. Jones' fear of Mr. Combs and strengthened Mr. Combs' dominion and control of Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones was terrified of Mr. Combs. He felt like he could not tell him no. Mr. Combs consistently made it clear that he has immense power in the music industry and with law enforcement. Mr. Combs made it clear that his head of security, Fahim Muhammad, Mr. Muhammad, have the power to make people and problems disappear. Have you all seen the alleged photo of Diddy being arrested and the alleged mugshot? When I tell you that Diddy looked high, his eyes were red. Y'all know the photo I'm talking about? There's a photo going around. What appears to potentially be Diddy with his hands behind his back and an Asian gentleman walking him. But we'll talk about that another time. There is the Mr. Fahim Muhammad. Mr. Muhammad. Mr. Combs instructs his staff to always contact Mr. Muhammad if they are ever pulled over by the police and Miami or California. Upon information and belief, Mr. Muhammad spoke with the LAPD after G was shot at Chalice Recording Studio. The LAPD was in the Chalice Recording Studio and witnessed the blood in the restroom, and they went with the bogus claim that the shooting of G occurred outside of the studio. And this was all thanks to Mr. Muhammad's connections within law enforcement. Mr. Jones had no reason to disbelieve Mr. Combs, as he had seen firsthand through the shooting of G and the subsequent silence of the LAPD and the media that Mr. Combs indeed had the power to harm him. The LAPD spent hours in Chalice Recording Studio after the shooting of G, yet there were no arrests. Mr. Jones witnessed the LAPD in the restroom, yet no arrests were made at the scene. The morning after the shooting, Mr. Jones and several others arrived at CRS, and G's blood was still on the floor of the restroom. And Mr. Combs hired a cleaning crew to clean it up. Now, this is in part 1, where we talked about this shooting that allegedly involved Sean Combs and his son, Justin Combs, who was also alleged to have had interactions with underage girls. But go see part 1. Now, defendants Ethiopia Habertamariam, Lucian Charles Grange, Motown Records, Love Records, Universal Music Group, aided, abetted, and profited off Sean Combs' Rico enterprise. Mr. Jones recalls seeing defendant Grange visiting Mr. Combs' home in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California. According to Mr. Jones, whenever defendant Grange visited Mr. Combs at his homes, it would be in the evening, when he and Mr. Combs would disappear for hours in Mr. Combs' bedroom. Defendant Grange sponsored and attended several Love album listening parties at Mr. Combs' home in Los Angeles, California. These parties were sponsored by defendants MR, LR, and UMG. As evidence above, these parties had sex workers and underage girls present. During these parties, defendant Grange knew or should have known that Mr. Combs was drugging the attendees through laced bottles of De Leon tequila and Ciroc vodka. It's no secret that Mr. Combs had specific bottles of alcohol designated for females and other bottles designated for his staff, his artists, and himself. This fact was detailed by former artists and bodyguards of Combs. As a sponsor of these events, defendant Grange had a duty and obligation to ensure that sex workers and underage girls were not present and that Mr. Combs was not spiking the alcohol with date rape drugs. I'm going to skip by this particular footer, but note the footnotes in this document are very important. And in this particular footnote, it talks about the importance of the TikTok platform, which, by the way, seems that it will be going away come January. Okay. Now, on YouTube channel, The Art of Dialogue, former bodyguard Gene Deal exposed Mr. Combs' pill mixing method used to spike cranberry juice and orange juice. According to Mr. Deal, Mr. Combs would place ecstasy and other date rape drugs in the juices. On YouTube, The Art of Dialogue, former artist Mark Curry exposed Mr. Combs spiking bottles of Moet champagne in the VIP section of nightclubs. Mr. Combs would have a set of Moet champagne bottles for his artists and a set for women. This writer has spoken with several former employees of Mr. Combs who witnessed defendant Khorram, the alleged Ghislaine Maxwell of Diddy's orbit, instruct her staff to lace champagne, De Leon, and Ciroc liquor bottles with ecstasy and other illicit drugs. Mr. Jones recalls seeing defendant Habtemariam visiting Mr. Combs' home in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California. According to Mr. Jones, whenever defendant Habtemariam visited Mr. Combs at his homes, it would be in the evening, and she and Mr. Combs would disappear for hours in Mr. Combs' bedroom. According to Mr. Jones, defendant Habtemariam visited Mr. Combs at defendant CRS during Mr. Combs' writing camp. That is the Chalice Recording Studios. Defendant Habtemariam sponsored and attended several Love album listening parties at Mr. Combs' home in Los Angeles, California. These parties were sponsored by defendants MR, LR, and UMG. As evidence above, these parties had sex workers and underage girls present. During these parties, defendant Habtemariam knew or should have known that Mr. Combs was drugging the attendees through laced bottles of De Leon tequila and Ciroc vodka. As a sponsor of these events, defendant Habtemariam had a duty and obligation to ensure that sex workers and underage girls were not present and that Mr. Combs was not spiking the alcohol with date rape drugs. And in the footnote is a link to the YouTube videos that were discussed above. I'm not surprised to see Gene Deal's name in a civil lawsuit. I've seen my name in civil lawsuits before. All right, the Tasha K Cardi B thing. I was mentioned in the civil lawsuit Cardi filed against Tasha K. So it definitely happens. And it doesn't mean that, Gene Deal is going to be like testifying, in this civil trial or anything like that. It's just being brought in as evidence. Okay. Now, defendant Christina Khorram is the Ghislaine Maxwell to Sean Combs, Jeffrey Epstein. Christina, where you at, girl? Where you at? Where you at, Christina? Does anyone know where this woman is? Does anyone know what private island this woman is currently on at the moment? Christina, where you at, girl? There's a photo of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. She's currently in prison, and he's dead. Now, according to Mr. Jones, during the 13 months he lived and traveled with Mr. Combs, he witnessed Mr. Combs display and distribute guns from his bedroom closet in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California to questionable individuals dressed in all black. According to Mr. Jones, during the 13 months he lived and traveled with Mr. Combs, he witnessed defendant Khorram openly order her assistants to keep Mr. Combs high off gummies and pills. Wow. Wow. Defendant Khorram required all employees from the butler, the chef, to the housekeepers to walk around with a pouch or fanny pack filled with cocaine, GHB, ecstasy, marijuana, gummies, 100 to 250 milligrams each, and Tucci, a pink drug that is a combination of ecstasy and cocaine. These are photos of the Tucci that we've heard so much about. Young Miami, where you at, girl? Where you at? You're so quiet. She did a whole Braxton, she bragged on an interview about how Diddy can go all night. She thought she was gonna be able to put him to sleep. But instead, he put her to sleep. He can go all night. Well, when you're hyped up on cocaine and other drugs, and you've been having sex for days, I mean, you don't have anything left, right? But look at these photos. This hot pink drug known as Tucci. Again, a combination of ecstasy and cocaine. It was important to defendant Khorram to have Mr. Combs' drug of choice immediately ready when he asks for it. Defendant Khorram ordered sex workers and prostitutes for Mr. Combs. And then notice in the footnote, the footnotes are so important. Look at that footnote. It says, quote, "We have a recording of this and will provide it to the court." Ooh. We have a recording of this and we'll provide it to the court. In this civil lawsuit, Rodney Jones is alleging, his attorneys are alleging, they have a recording of defendant Christina Khorram ordering sex workers and making sure that Mr. Combs had his drug of choice when he asked for it. These allegations that he's laid out, it is alleged that he has a recording of this and will provide it to the court. Christina, knock, knock, knock. Where you at, girl? Nobody's safe. And when you all talk about Diddy and these parties, don't forget to talk about the people that enabled him. Like Christina Khorram, the alleged Ghislaine Maxwell in his life. Defendant Khorram ordered and distributed ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms to Mr. Combs and his celebrity guests who were present on his rented yacht and in his homes in Los Angeles, New York City, and Miami. Now listen, I noticed marijuana is not, marijuana is mentioned and mushrooms are mentioned in this, but listen, I personally don't think that marijuana and mushrooms even equate in the same column as, cocaine and GHB and ketamine, okay? Those are, things that grow from the ground that the good Lord, for some reason made a seed for it, right? There's got to be some use for it, right? But they can absolutely be abused, right? On multiple occasions, defendant Khorram forced Mr. Jones to carry Mr. Combs' drug pouch against his will. And as the chief of staff, defendant Khorram was instrumental in organizing and executing the RICO enterprise. Defendant Khorram had the following individuals execute the following tasks for the RICO enterprise. A. Stevie J recruited sex workers and attends and participates in freak-offs. Freak-offs? What's up with it, Donnie? Freak-offs being the most popular word of the week. Not even in the dictionary, but it's going to be in the Urban Dictionary after this. Best believe that. Justin Combs, Justin Combs, his son, solicits prostitutes, underage girls, and sex workers would engage in freak-offs. Sean Combs was engaging in freak-offs with his own son, Justin Combs. He literally contributed to the corruption of his own son. His own son is soliciting prostitutes, soliciting underage girls and sex workers, engaging in these same said freak-offs as his daddy. Now that is some freaky shit. Boosie, where are you at? Anything to say to that? I know that you like to hire strippers and stuff like that for your son. But I want to know, would you engage in a freak-off with your son too? I mean, you have so much to say and everything. Brendan Paul. Brendan Paul was arrested. He has been described as Sean Combs's mule, his drug mule. He acquires and distributes Mr. Combs's drugs and guns. And here's a photo of Brendan and Mr. Combs. He was arrested in Miami and he was charged with drugs. When I tell you the federal authorities, when they hit his homes, they had already been working on this case against him. Anything they got in those raids was just icing on the cake. The federal authorities, the federales, have had 6 months, maybe even longer, to prepare their case, okay? Their case is very strong. And again, Diddy contributed much of the evidence against him. There's going to be videos upon videos upon videos. I wonder if Sean Combs is still withdrawing in MDC right now. Again, why would anyone defend Sean Combs, Diddy Combs? He's got the best lawyers money can buy. Why does anyone feel they need to defend his sexual escapades? I will never understand that. Frankie Santella. And here's another thing. I wonder if they're going to flip Brendan Paul. Again, Brendan Paul was arrested by federal authorities, charged with carrying drugs. I want to know if the federal authorities are going to flip him, where he's going to be testifying against Sean Combs. Frankie Santella works alongside Brendan while Brendan acquires and distributes Mr. Combs's drugs and guns. Frankie carries the money and pays for the guns and drugs. The other thing that's becoming evident here is that Sean Combs is a drug addict. And that's why I mentioned that he's probably withdrawing right about now. There's no telling how many years he's been addicted to these substances. And his body probably feels like a Mack truck hit it. King JB, I absolutely agree. Brendan Paul's going to flip more than a dolphin. I agree. The footnote, the ever important footnote says, quote, "We have a video of Mr. Combs, Stevie J, and Plaintiff Jones at a strip club. Mr. Combs is recording the video while coaching and training Plaintiff Jones how to recruit the sex workers." Ooh. Vice President of Music Management and Strategic Partnerships, Vice President of Music Management and Strategic Partnerships, Combs Global. And you'll notice when you read through these documents, right, it will list a number next to in the footnote, and all you have to do is just review that said number next to whatever is above, right? So 25, it says Vice President of Music Management, Strategic Partnerships, talking about Frankie Santella, who also worked alongside Brendan while Brendan acquires and distributes Mr. Combs' drugs and guns. That he carries the money and he pays for the guns and drugs. But golly, 24, we have a video. Mr. Combs, Stevie J, and Plaintiff Jones at a strip club, and he's coaching and training Rodney Jones on how to recruit sex workers. Okay. Ooh. And there's an image of Frankie Santella and Sean Combs. More names. Muy Bon hires sex workers, attends and participates in freak-offs. Muy Bon, where are you at? Where you at, man? Y'all don't get so quiet now. What y'all quiet now for? Ooh, woosah, ooh. And that's the infamous Thanksgiving footage, right? Where Young Miami, her cousin was trying to basically sexually assaulted Rodney Jones. He went in the bathroom and she just came in there and got on her knees and started trying to give him a BJ. And when he denied her, she tried to straddle him in front of Sean Combs, right? On Thanksgiving Day. This is Muy Bon, Thanksgiving 2022, when Mr. Combs offered Mr. Jones cocaine. Mr. Combs funded and used his affiliation with local gangs and gang leaders who would frequent his homes in LA and Miami to secure the drugs and guns he obtained and distributed out of his homes in LA and Miami. And we have another footnote here, 26. Plaintiff has intentionally left the names and images of these individuals out of the pleading out of fear of retaliation. But what that is saying is that Rodney Jones has evidence of these local gangs and gang leaders, including their names. I'm looking at this thing, these screen caps from 2022 Thanksgiving, and you can tell that's a video. We see Sean Combs right here. Defendants executed their RICO enterprise with threats of violence, threatening to eat plaintiff's face, displaying and distributing guns in plaintiff's presence, bragging about having law enforcement under control, bragging about murdering people, and bragging about bribing witnesses and jurors in the criminal case concerning the 1999 New York City nightclub shooting with Shine. The same incident that Jennifer Lopez was arrested in, right? The incident in which that woman was shot in the face. Defendants executed their RICO enterprise with threats of isolation from the music and entertainment industry, parading powerful music industry executives such as defendants Lucian Charles Grange, Ethiopia Habtemariam at his parties filled with sex workers, minors, and illegal drugs, such as ecstasy cocaine, GHB ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms. Defendants executed their RICO enterprise with threats of non-payment for work completed, fake promises of cash payments, $250,000, Producer of the Year Grammy Awards, and guaranteed access to future projects, and a $20 million home on Star Island in Miami. Mr. Combs is allowed to wreak havoc While living and traveling with Mr. Combs, Mr. Jones discovered that Mr. Combs has hidden cameras in every room of his homes. Did you all forget that when the indictment was unsealed, it was mentioned that the feds took possession of several security systems, including the hard drives the content was on? Mr. Jones believes that Mr. Combs has recordings of defendants Lucian Charles Grange and Ethiopia Habtemariam, as well as other celebrities, music label executives, politicians, and athletes. Upon information and belief, these individuals were recorded without their knowledge and consent, and as is the case with the homosexual sex tape of Stevie J that Mr. Combs provided to Mr. Jones, Mr. Combs possesses compromising footage of every person that has attended his freak-off parties and his house parties. Ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Shout out to the LeakYou community. Please join us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music.
Please hit the like. Thank you.
Anyone that attended his freak-offs and his house parties, it is alleged in this court filing that Mr. Combs possesses compromising footage of every person that has attended those parties. TD Jakes, Pasta, where you at? You so quiet. So quiet. Nothing to say? Upon information and belief, due to this treasure trove of evidence he has in his possession, Mr. Combs believes that he is above the law and untouchable. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs employs Jose Cruz as his IT director. This writer has spoken to several former employees of Mr. Combs who confirmed that Jose Cruz is the gatekeeper to all of Mr. Combs's recordings. And I can only imagine as an IT director. As an IT director, you're going to have access to everything. All the passwords, all the usernames, all the cloud storage accounts, all those hard drives. Upon information and belief, Jose Cruz intentionally hides behind the camera and from social media and the internet due to all of the incriminating acts he was required to record for Mr. Combs. Will we see Jose Cruz in court testifying against Sean Combs? Or you think that he's willing to go down for his part? What do y'all think? Oh no, I think they will flip him faster than a grilled cheese sandwich. Oh yeah, get ready. This is going to be the trial of a century. Defendant Mr. Combs hired private investigator Russell L. Green to seek out, harass, and bribe individuals to provide dirt on Mr. Jones. On or about March 2nd, 2024, Mr. Jones was informed by a close friend from his church that Mr. Combs' engineer, Matt Testa, provided an individual's phone number to Los Angeles-based private investigator Russell L. Green. And we have a footer. There is a link to the private investigator's profile page there. Nextdoor.com, Blue Diamond Investigations. And there is proof of a conversation. Hi. Name blacked out. It's Russell Green. Name blacked out. Gave me your number. Are you available to speak with me? And this, number is there. I don't know if they've changed it. Hey, I can chat in a couple hours if that's cool. Sounds good. I'm in an event from 3 to 5, so I'll be available after 5. I'm on the West Coast. Where are you? I'm in Los Angeles. I can talk at 1:30 as well. Okay. You available now? Did you just call me? Yes. This conversation happened. Upon information and belief, Mr. Green attempted to bribe this anonymous individual with an uncertain amount of money in exchange for her producing text messages or any evidence that this individual can produce to paint Mr. Jones in a bad light. This individual is now terrified for their safety and the safety of their family. This is a clear example of some of the tactics that are implemented by Mr. Combs and the members of the Combs Rico Enterprise. My goodness. First cause of action, conduct, and participate in a Rico enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity, violation of Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organization Act, codified at 18 U.S.C. 1962A, C, D, against defendants Lucian, Charles Grange, Ethiopia Habtemariam, Sean Combs, Justin Combs, Christina Khorram, Combs Global, Motown Records, Love Records, and Universal Music Group. Mr. Jones incorporates by reference all preceding paragraphs and realleges them as if set forth fully herein. As respondent, superior defendants Lucian Charles Grange, Ethiopia Habtemariam, Combs Global, Motown Records, Love Records, and Universal Music Group, the respondent superior collective, are 100% liable for the actions of Sean Combs, Justin Combs, Christina Khorram, as they were acting in their capacities as the respondent superior collective's employees when they committed the acts detailed below. The respondent superior collective failed to adequately monitor, warn, or supervise the actions of Sean Combs, Justin Combs, and Christina Khorram. Defendants are individuals and or entities within the meaning of person as defined in 18 U.S.C. 1961, because each is capable of holding and does hold a legal or beneficial interest in property. The association is composed of Lucian Charles Grange, Ethiopia Habtemariam, Sean Combs, Justin Combs, Christina Khorram, Combs Global, Motown Records, Love Records, Universal Music Group, John and Jane Doe's 1 through 10, and ABC Corporations 1 through 10. What's up with it, Earl Lawrence? Section 1962A makes it unlawful for any person who has received any income derived directly or indirectly from a pattern of racketeering activity or through a collection of an unlawful debt in which such person has participated as a principal within the meaning of Section 2, Title 18, United States Code, to use or invest directly or indirectly any part of such income or the proceeds of such income in the acquisition of any interest in or the establishment or operation of any enterprise which is engaged in or the activities of which affect interstate or Foreign Commerce, Miss B. They are putting together all these allegations, directly accusing Sean Combs and the other defendants listed in this court filing. They're setting up the RICO statutes. And we do know, Miss B, that he has been criminally charged with racketeering, which again, that particular charge against Sean Combs is the charge that carries the heftiest penalty. That racketeering charge carries a life sentence. Section 1962 makes it unlawful for any person employed by or associated with any enterprise engaged in or the activities of which affect interstate or foreign commerce to conduct or participate directly or indirectly in the conduct of such enterprises' affairs through a pattern of racketeering activity. Section 1962 makes it unlawful for any person to conspire to violate Section 1962, and among other provisions, 18 U.S.C. 1962d. Defendants are associated with each other as an enterprise, within the meaning of enterprise. Defendants have unlawfully increased their profits by luring and deceiving producers, musicians, writers, creators, and artists, such as plaintiff, to transport drugs, ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms, transport firearms, solicit minors, exotic dancers, sex workers, and to utilize their talents and labor to produce music and other tangible goods and services without compensation. The RICO enterprise, which all defendants have engaged in, and the activities of which affected interstate and foreign commerce, is comprised of an association, in fact, of persons, including each defendant and other unnamed co-conspirators. That association, in fact, was structured by various contracts and non-contractual relationships between the defendants, by which defendants assumed different roles in agreeing to carry out a mail and wire fraud scheme to acquire drugs, firearms, prostitutes, minors, sex workers, and the labor of producers, musicians, writers, creators, and artists, such as plaintiff, referring to Rodney Jones, to utilize their talents and labor to produce music and other tangible goods and services without compensation. The members of the RICO enterprise all share a common purpose: to enrich themselves financially and sexually at the expense of producers, musicians, writers, creators, and artists by maximizing defendants' revenues through fraudulent means. As set forth herein, defendants benefited financially from their scheme to defraud plaintiff by intimidating plaintiff with threats of violence, threatening to eat plaintiff's face, displaying and distributing guns in plaintiff's presence, bragging about having law enforcement under control, bragging about murdering people, bragging about bribing witnesses and jurors in the criminal case concerning the 1999 New York City nightclub shooting with Shine. And see, there's a valid concern there. It has been alleged, and Shine even spoke to this, that he said Sean Combs ruined his life. Sean Combs bribed people to ensure that Shine would take that rap and go to prison, and not him. Shine spent 10 years of his life behind bars for a crime that Sean Combs committed, that he subsequently bragged about. threats of isolation from the music and entertainment industries, parading powerful music industry executives such as defendants Lucian Charles Grange, Ethiopia Habtemariam, as his parties filled with sex workers, minors, and illegal drugs such as ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms. Threats of non-payment for work completed, fake promises of cash payments, $250,000, Producer of the Year Grammy Awards, and guaranteed access to future projects. A $20 million home on Star Island in Miami, which defendants would not have done but for the existence of the scheme. The members of the RICO enterprise all share a common purpose, and you all listen. Guarantee that these names that I have mentioned in this civil lawsuit, you better believe that the federal authorities have tapped them on their shoulders. It's going to be like this. Either Christina Khorram is going to testify against Sean Combs, or Christina Khorram is going to catch a charge. That's how this is going to work. Either Lucian Grange is going to tell the federal authorities what they want to know and get immunity for doing so, or he's going to catch a charge right next to Sean Combs. Again, you did hear me when I told you all about all the videos. All the videos, right? Not just the videos and audio files from the 90 different pieces of equipment, including cloud storage accounts. We're also talking about videos and audio that is in the possession of Rodney Jones. I hope he has it backed up, right? Please back up all those video and audio files on a different hard drive, man, and put that hard drive in a safe. Here's the other thing about federal trials. It's highly likely there won't be cameras in the trial. We won't get to watch it like we did the Johnny Depp trial. But, Gosh, I almost want to be there, in the galley watching. This is going to be, again, the trial of a century. You thought O.J. Simpson had the trial of a century. Upon information and belief, this RICO enterprise has existed for at least 20 years. Dating back to the 1999 nightclub shooting in New York City, when Mr. Combs required his then-girlfriend Jennifer Lopez to transport his illegal firearm into the New York City nightclub. Listen, here's something I don't understand, Miss B. Here's something I don't get, Donnie. You become a billionaire or a multi-millionaire, and you still engage in street activity. Why? Why can't you just enjoy your money, buy a house on an island somewhere, and live out the rest of your days? There's always truth to some gossip. Gossip you hear is not always 100% factual truth, but believe me, there's always some truth to gossip. Mr. Combs forced his then artist Shine to assume responsibility for the shooting of several individuals. Mr. Combs used his power, money, and influence to bribe jurors and witnesses, such as the friend of the shooting victim, Natanya Rubin, who reported to law enforcement that she saw Mr. Combs, and not Shine, pull the trigger and shoot her friend in the face. Natanya Rubin's friend later testified at Mr. Combs' criminal trial that she was tying her shoe and may not have seen who shot the gun. She later confessed that Mr. Combs paid her. Natanya Rubin, she was friends She was her friend. She saw her friend get shot in the face by Sean Diddy Combs. She later took money and admitted that she took money to testify that she didn't see who shot the gun. The RICO enterprise continued throughout the years, including during Mr. Combs' 10-year relationship with his girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. According to Ms. Ventura's civil complaint, this RICO enterprise continued in her relationship when Mr. Combs forced her to carry his gun in her purse, forced her to engage in unwanted sexual acts with male prostitutes and sex workers, forced her to consume dangerous amounts of ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and alcohol, and paying a member of his security team $5,000 to blow up the vehicle of Kid Cudi because he was jealous and insecure of their relationship. Now, if there's any understanding here, for some of you all, you do remember in the indictment, arson was brought up, right? Again, many of us concur that Cassie is victim one in that indictment. And I have no doubt that Cassie is going to be testifying against Sean Combs. A lot of the information Cassie has brought forth is what they are going against Sean Combs about. He paid someone $5,000 to blow up Kid Cudi's car. This was relation to the Molotov cocktail that went through the top of that car. They cut the top of the car open. It was a drop top and dropped a Molotov cocktail in the car. The RICO enterprise continued from September 2022 to the present day, as evidenced by the hundreds of hours of video and audio recordings in plaintiff's possession. Damn. Defendants Sean Combs, Justin Combs, Christina Khorram, his assistants and staff all orchestrated, participated, managed, and executed the RICO enterprise by purchasing and distributing ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms, by purchase and distributing firearms, by requiring the solicitation of sexual encounters with prostitutes, sex workers, and minors, and by forcing artists, creatives, musicians, and producers to utilize their talents and labor to produce music and other tangible goods and services without compensation. The RICO enterprise has functioned as a continuing unit and maintains an ascertainable structure separate and distinct from the pattern of racketeering activity. The enterprise was characterized by the defendant's pattern of false representations and omissions made by defendants Sean Combs, Justin Combs, Christina Khorram, and other current and former members of the defendant's associates and staff to defendant's artists, creatives, musicians, and producers. These false representations and omissions were designed to induce defendants' artists, creatives, musicians, and producers to utilize their talents and labor to produce music and other tangible goods and services without compensation, as well as the solicitation of sexual encounters with prostitutes, sex workers, and minors, and the purchasing and distribution of illegal firearms and guns. You all did hear me in the beginning of this live stream that it is alleged that Justin Combs, Diddy's own son, engaged in these freak-offs with his daddy. Okay? His own pops. Defendants profited from the enterprise, and Plaintiff Jones suffered because the enterprise diminished Plaintiff Jones' finances due to 13 months of non-payment and diminished Plaintiff Jones' health through consistent drugging and forced sexual encounters with prostitutes and sex workers. Defendants used the proceeds from the scheme to advance the scheme by funding and operating their marketing machine, including through the use of the mail, social media, word of mouth, and interstate wires to sell the illusion that Mr. Combs was serious about the talents and skills of the artists, creatives, musicians, and producers, and wanted to use those skills to make music when nothing could be further from the truth. Defendants provided their artists, creatives, musicians, and producers with this misrepresentative information, including via email, all over interstate wireline communication systems, and obtaining free labor, the distribution of drugs and firearms, as well as prostitutes, sex workers, and minors. Defendants obtained revenue via wire transfers, documents, and banking transactions that were exchanged via electronic means over interstate wires, thereby growing the enterprise and causing further injury to Plaintiff Jones as described throughout. Look at these additional names. And we will be doing a part 3 on this. Yes, Miss B, yes. It is alleged in this civil complaint that Justin Combs also engaged in sexual encounters with sex workers, underage minors, and also engaged in these freak-offs with his own daddy. Oh, yeah. Now, Robin Greenhill, the accountant who would ensure the wiring, funds transfer, or cash payments to sex workers, Frankie Santella, Moy Bond, Brendan Paul, and Christina Khorram would also be responsible for ensuring payment to sex workers in cash. Young Miami, Jade, and Daphne Joy were paid a monthly fee to work as Mr. Combs' sex workers and received payment via wire transfer from Robin Greenhill, which outlined defendants' ongoing criminal operation. Young Miami, Daphne Joy, ain't that 50 Cent's baby mama? This is a very detailed civil complaint. Again, he's alleging wire fraud. He's alleging all sorts of illegal situations. Now, I want to get more into the sexual assault and sexual harassment, which is the second cause of action. But yes, he's naming names. But I will be back later on today, and we will finish this civil lawsuit. I will also be coming up later to finish the reading of the very detailed report created by Hip Hop Stands with Survivors against Africa Bambaataa, who is also alleged to be a sexual deviant. We're going to be doing a part 2 and finishing up our reading of that very detailed report. Okay. We all know that Ronald Savage recently went back into the arms of Africa Bambaataa. They were photographed together, right? But listen, as a teaser, as a little taste of what's to come here, Mr. Jones incorporates by reference all preceding paragraphs and realleges them as if set forth fully herein. As described above, Mr. Combs frightened and placed plaintiff in apprehension of harm when he physically and sexually assaulted him from October 2022 to October 2023 in Mr. Combs's home in Miami, New York, United States Virgin Islands, and Los Angeles. Mr. Combs forcibly touched and attempted and or threatened to touch plaintiff's intimate areas and or touched plaintiff with his own intimate body parts. Mr. Combs violently gripped and palmed Mr. Jones's anus and crotch without consent. Mr. Combs forced Mr. Jones to work in Mr. Combs's bathroom and watch Mr. Combs as he showered. Mr. Combs forced Mr. Jones to work in the studio while Mr. Combs stripped naked to get his body massaged. Mr. Combs forced Mr. Jones to work while Mr. Combs walked around naked. As a result of Mr. Combs' conduct, plaintiff has suffered and continues to suffer harm, including physical injury, severe emotional distress, humiliation, anxiety, and other consequential damages for which he is entitled to an award of monetary damages and other relief. The conduct of Mr. Combs described above was willful, wanton, and malicious. At all relevant times, Mr. Combs acted with conscious disregard for plaintiff's rights and feelings, acted with the knowledge of or with reckless disregard for the fact that his conduct was certain to cause injury and or humiliation to plaintiff and intended to cause fear, physical injury, and or pain and suffering. By virtue of the foregoing, plaintiff is entitled to recover punitive damages. And it notes in the footnote that damages shall include, but are not limited to, all damages permitted under the New Jersey Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. And we will get further in to talking about the Justin Combs. Again, it's also alleged that Justin and Diddy, son and pop, dad and son, one of the two allegedly shot a man in a recording studio. This just happened. Justin Combs, where are you at? Do you think that the feds will be able to flip Justin Combs against his daddy? Or do you think maybe he's going to go to a private island, never to be seen ever again? See, if I had that type of money, when the first civil lawsuit would have been filed against me, I would have got on my plane and go to a country that does not have an extradition treaty, the United States. But thank God, I am not in a situation like that, right? All of this hurt this man inflicted on people. People are dying. We still don't know to this day where this man is that was shot at this recording studio. Nobody knows. It was even mentioned in the civil complaint. Nobody seems to know where he's at. He thought he had the key to the city, Donnie. But the mayor said, I want that key back. But here's the thing. Why'd you give it to him in the first place? See, that particular mayor in New York, he has this thing with celebrities. He wants to be all up in the video. Right? He gave Sean Combs the key to the city and then asked for it back. And Sean Combs gave it back. should have went over to Bali with Russell Simmons. And Russell Simmons has dealt with many a civil lawsuit that was filed against him regarding sexual assaults. He's in Bali. He said he's never coming back to the United States, ever. Listen, you all, before I get up out of here, allow me to pay a few bills if you don't mind. Shout out to the LeakYou community. Please join us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music.
Please hit the like. Thank you.
When I do return to finish the reading of this civil complaint, we will also be discussing the alleged sexual assault by Cuba Gooding Jr. on a yacht that was rented by Mr. Combs in the Virgin Islands. This was January of last year, okay? Including the alleged sexual assault by Young Miami's cousin. And it's also alleged that Young Miami is a paid sex worker for Diddy, a.k.a. Sean Combs. Listen, I appreciate each and every one of you for coming through on all platforms. Make sure that you check out my Anchor page at anchor.fm/LeakYou. You can find my official podcast. If you're on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, or Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, you can definitely look up LeakYou.com and subscribe to my official podcast. We have begun season 3. And again, I appreciate you all. So I will catch you all on the next live stream. Thank you very much, Earl. I appreciate that. I'll see you all when I see you guys. Until next time.
The judgment sentence that you are an asshole. The trial is over. Thank you, everybody.
Let's play a game. You have 10 seconds to take all your stuff and get out of my life. 10, 9, 8.
God bless you, motherfucker.
You're really smart. Like really, really, really smart like I am.